So you and I, we're here today, but where did it all start? It started with Jesus, right? His life, death, and resurrection. But from there, the first Christians, they took the message out to the world. They gave the world the message. And didn't they do an incredible job? You see, if I would have said to you the day after Jesus died, Christianity is going to change the world, you probably would have laughed at me. Let's face it, a lot of people would have laughed at that idea. But it has. Christianity has changed the world. Christianity is changing the world. And Christianity is going to continue to change the world. Because that's the power of the gospel, the life and message of Jesus Christ when it's actually lived. The first Christians, they had it going on. We read about people joining 1,000 at a time or 3,000 at a time in the Acts of the Apostles. What was going on? What did these people have that so many other people wanted? Well, if you think back to first century Christianity, the culture was very cold, it was harsh, it was brutal, and it was deeply impersonal. And by contrast, Christianity was warm, it was generous, it was inviting, it was loving. And people were attracted to that. People were deeply attracted to that because there's nothing more attractive than holiness. There's nothing more attractive than when somebody actually lives the message of Jesus Christ. And when we see that, when we experience that, we want that. We want to be around that. We want to be a part of that because it's potent, it's powerful, it's attractive. The other thing is they didn't blend in, right? They lived differently, they loved differently, they worked differently. They were set apart from the culture. They set themselves apart from the culture. They said, culture's a mess. We're going to build a new culture. And that's what God invites you to do. God wants you to rebel against the culture today because today's culture, the world's culture, it's a mess. It doesn't help you become the best version of yourself. It causes you to become a second-rate, lesser version of yourself. So how are you going to step away from the culture? How are you going to create that countercultural reality in your life? I write a lot of articles and I don't get too much hate mail, but from time to time I get some hate mail. But I wrote an article a few years ago. I got a lot of hate mail. I started the article off by asking the question, if the sewer pipe broke in your house tomorrow, would you consider that an urgent problem? Now, maybe you would and maybe you wouldn't, and hey, I'm open to both sides of that debate. But I said in the article, you know, if the sewer pipe broke in my house tomorrow, I'd consider that definitely an urgent problem. But maybe everyone's not like me. Maybe some people wouldn't consider it an urgent problem. Maybe after a couple of days, you'd get used to it. Maybe a few days after that, you could let the kids play in it. They could have all sorts of fun playing in that raw sewage. But I think most of us would consider that a pretty urgent problem. I then asked the question, how is the sewer pipe breaking in your house different to television? I mean, television just streaming this rubbish into our homes every single day of our lives, every minute of every day of our lives. How's a broken sewer pipe different to television? I think that's where I started getting into trouble with the article. Then I challenged the reader, unplug your television for a month. Tell me how your life is different. But let's do the experiment. Unplug your television for a month. Don't just say, I'll turn it off, because you'll turn it back on. But unplug it, dethrone it, take it down off its altar, put it down in the basement for a month. And then tell me, how's your family different after a month? How's your house different? Is it more peaceful? Do you have better conversations with the people you live with during that month where there's no television? I think I got into trouble because I published the article during football season. But the thing is, in the Kelly house, there's no television. I mean, we have a television, we have a DVD player, we watch a movie from time to time. But there's no TV, there's no cable, there's no free channels, there's no TV channels of any type streaming into my home. And I don't feel like I'm missing out. In fact, I feel like my life is better because I don't have television. I feel like my family is better, my house is more peaceful, my relationships are better because I don't have television. But sometimes we just accept what the culture's selling us as if, oh yeah, it must be the right thing or it must be the best thing. But there's dozens of cases where it isn't. And here's the thing. For you, it doesn't need to be television. For me, it's television. You know, my wife and I, my family, we've set up a beachfront, a countercultural beachfront. We've said, in this thing, we're stepping away from the culture. And you need a countercultural beachfront in your life as well. You need some point where you say, you know what, I'm stepping away from the culture. I'm going to rebel against the culture. I'm going to celebrate the best version of myself. I'm going to walk with God. I'm going to be countercultural. 2,000 years later, the legacy of the first Christians is still with us in the church. And you can say a lot of things about the church, But one of those things has to be the church is absolutely countercultural. The church is inviting you to a very different life than what the world is inviting you to. And it's inviting you to that life for a reason. It's inviting you to that life because it wants to help you become the best version of yourself. It wants to help you celebrate your God-given potential. It wants to help you walk with God in this life and the next. And that's part of the genius of the church. When I was about 15 years old, the same guy who encouraged me to pray, he said to me, he said, Matthew, you know, in the next 10 years, a lot of your friends are going to leave the church. And most of them, they have no idea what they're leaving behind. So I challenge you to explore Catholicism. I challenge you to explore the Catholic Church. And after you've really explored the genius of Catholicism, the genius of the Catholic Church, there's no way you'll leave it. There's no way. Nobody would turn their back on that. The only people who turn their back on Catholicism, people don't understand what it is. So let's take another look at the church.